It's hard to talk about this movie without addressing the elephant in the room. Before the movie aired on Disney Channel, Cameron Boyce, portraying actor of Carlos, sadly passed away from a seizure. In the Descendants Royal Wedding special, Carlos is not present, and the dialogue implies that he too passed away. The character died with the actor. But as for the movie itself, rest in peace, Cameron. But on to the movie. VK Day is here, meaning that Mal and the gang are headed off to the Isle of the Lost to grab some kids out of Fantasy Australia. Hope they do a good background check. Because it would be really bad if someone was like Uma, or someone with an even worse temperament than Uma, was dragged off the Isle of the Lost and caused us to do a massive super spy mystery where everyone is getting petrified in Oradon, and seriously, why couldn't this be a thing? This sounds like a good premise. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the opening. I think Rotten to the Core or Ways to Be Wicked were far better than this. This feels really generic. It's like eating really bad porridge. Among the people taken off the Isle of the Lost are Mr. Smee's twin boys and Celia Facilier. If you think they'll be plot relevant, they're footnotes at best. After that sequence, we see Oradon. Ben sings to Mal about his love for her and how he wants her to be his queen. Yes, this is the love proposal, the wedding proposal. After 3 movies, they're getting married. Meanwhile, Queen Leah decides to shame Audrey for not being able to become the queen. Oh no, if we actually built up to this whole good guys are bad thing for a trilogy rather than diver and incompetence, this could have been an interesting point. You really think Queen Leah would hate Mal more on principle, because she couldn't raise Aurora for years, which is acknowledged by the first film, but now it comes off as Queen Leah being a stage grandparent. Why was the stage parenting even necessary? In the first movie, Ben is drugged with a love potion, declares his love for Mal publicly. When the potion's effects are literally washed off, he doesn't bother explaining the situation to Audrey because physics. That alone makes sense for a motivation for Audrey to go after Ben and outright resent all the VKs. Apparently, Queen Leah needed to stage parent her and just twist that knife, even though she doesn't really get comeuppance at the end of the movie at all. Anyways, the first class of VK goes to the Isle to retrieve the new class, but they're met by Hades. I still see the CGI dragon hasn't gotten any better. No, seriously, this franchise cannot do a decent action sequence, let alone CGI monster fight to save their lives. The first fight with Maleficent sucked in the original film, the second one with the fight with Uma also sucked, and the third one, all the dragon action sequences suck. All the actual action sequences suck. The next major song is Queen Amine, the villain song. When it's not trying to Lin-Manuel Miranda, it's actually a pretty good song thematically. It also highlights the stupidity of Oradon on full display. Audrey wants to steal the crown, probably to mope cosplay about how she could be queen, because she goes on about how maybe being evil is a good idea. Then she smashes the glass and immediately retrieves the crown. Okay, you'd expect there to be an alarm system considering it's the crown, but crowns are, I guess, are replaceable. But then she is fixated on the staff of Maleficent the Dragon's eye. And I'm sitting here like, so you'll keep the crown and glass, but not the evil magical artifact used by an evil fairy who can turn into a dragon and rain terror on Oradon. What? This is one of those things which you should just take, build a replica of it, and then take the actual staff and then hide it in an underground vault or something. So this is how Audrey becomes a villain and gets the villain makeover. The royal family is shaken up by the robbery, no doubt because they probably hired the cheapest security they could find this side of a drunk 12-year-old, and Mal's advice is to close the barrier forever. A few moments later, Audrey turns Mal into an old crone with the line, "You think Ben will love you now that you're an old hag?" Audrey, Ben's father is the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. I think he'll still love her like this. This is a stupid plot point to get us to the Isle of the Lost. Audrey then knocks out a bunch of people on her evil rampage, gloating and ranting and raving, and the Isle of the Lost has the magic negating barrier, meaning that the whole quest for Hades' ember in order to rejuvenate Mal is completely pointless. What kind of nonsense is this? Not sure why they couldn't just use the fairy godmother's wand, other than, oh, the plot decided that. You know, they could have just said, oh, we took that and locked it into a deep vault beneath Oradon that it's just easier to just go to the Isle of the Lost. Oh yeah, Hades is revealed to be Mal's dad. Glad that this only goes somewhere towards the end. And he also gives her the ember, which is actually more plot relevant, and tells her not to get it wet or else it will be destroyed. Let's get to the best character in the trilogy, Uma. After a skirmish with her crew, she appears and ends up with the Emperor of Hades. Audrey hams up the evil and turns Ben into a beast, and then attacks the VK and Uma's crew, who have since formed an alliance. After this, Uma ransacks Audrey's room and finds out she's likely to go to the cottage, and has apparently knocked a bunch of people out. Doug is also passed out, and Uma suggests True Love's kiss to make him wake up, which makes sense because, fairy tale. Something interesting that basically many other reviewers and viewers have pointed out, that whole True Love's kiss idea makes sense. The deconstruction of true love has been a thing for Disney throughout the 2010s. There was Elsa's true love being familial, which helped heal Anna. There was also the plot point in the Maleficent movie where familial love was more than whatever Prince Philip could muster. What would happen if you believe your love is true, but then when tested with this kiss, the person doesn't wake up? That must be a sword to the heart right there. With the boys, they find Ben, and after distracting him long enough, Jane arrives and dumps him with magical lake water. Woohoo! You really expect that to be more climactic. I get that it was pre-established, but this is a narrative. You need to build up and make these victories seem earned. This really feels less like a small victory and more like a speed bump. After Mal and Uma work together to fight against another attack from Audrey, who is not even on screen, she's just boarding up the cottage using magic, we get another big reveal internally. Mal comes clean about the whole barrier situation and how she wants to seal it forever. Celia takes the ember because we need to give her some reason to exist and dumps it in a bird bath, thus extinguishing it. Then everyone else gets petrified and Celia taken a hostage. Audrey is holding Celia hostage in this scene atop the castle, because why not? One song and really bad action sequence later, Mal puts Audrey into a coma. Then we bring Hades here, who really is the only man who can revive anyone because, God of the Dead thing. After that, Mal orders the barrier to be removed, dance party ended. Descendants 3 has a major problem with pacing and focus. Geez, Cyril Huangling talking about pacing and focus. Shocker. Let me explain. Notice how this movie goes to, oh, we need to get to the Isle of the Lost to get Hades' Ember to undo this curse. The curse is immediately undone, rather anticlimactically. Instead, we get a nice diatribe about Mal's parental issues and how she gets the Ember. Because physics. Look, guys, if you're going to have a plot MacGuffin, can you at least make it meaningful to the plot? And can you make actually getting the MacGuffin feel earned somehow? Also, what was the point of the new VKs? They're barely in here to make any sort of impact. Even Celia Facilier's destruction of the Ember and becoming a damsel in distress really doesn't feel like it should have affected much. At least when Uma and crew were introduced into the last film, they were the big bads. The new ones really don't do anything. Hell, Uma and crew's enemy of my enemy to I'm willingly joining your side bit feels very rushed and unearned. All this leads to is a finale that feels thematically hollow. In terms of villainy, Audrey is not much of a direct threat. While yes, she petrifies people, and casts sleeping spells, and induces transformations, I never really bought her as the ambitious type trying to become queen. She just kind of kicks puppies and spits on babies. I guess there's some kind of commentary on how evil isn't born, evil is made, evil is forged. But at the same time, this movie has too many plot points to actually explore her. Hell, she's like absent for half the movie. Several of her villainous actions are done while she's off screen, but she does things that are on screen, like, I don't know, petrify the kids. How interesting would it have been if we actually did a deep dive into Audrey's heart and basically have her see how she turns all this pain she's feeling and she copes with it very poorly and then uses that to manifest into villainy? What if she did that and then led other of the Oradon kids into becoming villains because they were tired of all the pain that being perfect has forced them into? Would make Hades' speech about, hey, when we screw up, we're disgustingly evil. Take the keys, melt them down. But when you guys screw up, it's just a lapse in judgment. At least I would give that message something to work with in this movie. But those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.